Welcome to the Smarter Church Communications Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Esker. This is a podcast where we empower church leaders like you to streamline your communications, connect more effectively with your congregation, and reach even more people in your community. Whether you're looking for practical tips, fresh ideas, or strategies to make your message stand out, you're in the right place. Today, I've got Mindy with us, and we are the week after Easter. So, Mindy, tell us a little bit about how you're doing. How did Easter go for you guys?
Doing great. It was a really fun weekend. We did 4 services and one on Saturday, which was the first time we've done anything like that. And very successful weekend, but we're all kind of feeling that post-Easter, I don't want to call it a hangover, but it kind of is.
The exhaustion of, and
Yes,
I,
yes.
I remember in in like the big weekend services, whether it's Easter or Christmas, just shaking so many hands, and literally my cheeks would hurt for like a day or two because I just smiled so much and met so many people. But in that, it's like a great exhaustion too, because it's like, wow, we just welcomed so many people into our church over the weekend. So
100%.
now, in that, I thought today, let's talk a little bit about we just spent all this time the last couple months prepping for Easter, getting graphics ready for Easter, landing pages, ads, all these things. What do you see from your position as a church communicator at your local church? What's your strategy now post Easter heading into May? What is your communication calendar, or what's your communication strategy as you head into this next month?
Well, that's a good question. There's probably two different parts to it. So there's the immediate Easter follow-up, and that's the kind of thing that you have planned before Easter happened, having action steps for new people. And so you might have a new series coming, and I'll just tell you what we did at our church. We had a new series. We have a giving initiative that you can take part in, where you bring items for a local nonprofit that's serving people in need. We have a short-term small group. So these are the things that you plan before Easter that will take place right after. And so you kind of strike while the iron's hot that first week or two after Easter, hoping that you have some retention, or that the things you're creating might help create retention in your
hmm
people. So that's kind of step one.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things too that I see is if you had any type of plan your visit type of form or a get connected card, this is the week to absolutely not drop the ball on communicating with those folks. Because if somebody came to your church for the first time, or they took the time to fill out a plan a visit form or a get connected card while they were at church this Easter, now's the time that they reached out to you and took that step of faith of saying, hey, I want to learn more about getting plugged in. I want to learn more about small groups or about youth group or whatever it is that they sort of check the boxes on. And this is the week to not let that ball drop. We need to follow up with them. And I just think for churches out there, if you haven't already followed up, this is the absolute most crucial time this week. The quicker to lead or the quicker to follow up with those leads, the more likely they're going to remember or have questions from the weekend, things like that. So I just want to encourage anyone, if you haven't already done that, get going on that right away. I think that follow-up's a huge step after Easter.
100%. And I think, depending on where Easter falls, because the next thing we were going to talk about is kind of how chaotic May is.
hmm
And so depending on where Easter falls that year, it was pretty late this year. So this next 2 weeks is pretty critical. And then people are going to hit May, where they call it Maycember, where it's feels as busy as Christmas, but it's in May. And so you have to kind of think about the family rhythm or a person's rhythm as you hit May. So that's another thing that I think is really important to kind of talk about.
Yeah. So unpack that a little bit. What do you mean by May being busy, May being full of things? What does that look like, do you think, for a family?
Well, and I guess too, some churches, we just worked with a church that serves mostly retired people. So Maycember may not be a thing for them, but there is rhythms in that congregation too, where people are busier or people are not. And so it's honoring the rhythm of your congregation. So if you have families of any type in your congregation, May is about to become crazy, where you have end of year dance recitals, end of finals, graduations, parties, lots of weddings, award ceremonies if they go to a public school, like all those different things. And you have multiple things going on every week as a family. So if as a church we're like throwing a lot of things at people too, it can just feel like too much or it will get lost
Yeah,
altogether. And so
absolutely.
we always talk about our next gen pastor is the one that really kind of taught our staff about honoring the family rhythm. So what can we do to not add to that Maycember crazy? There's things that you have to do as a church that keep happening, but what
Mhm.
can we do to kind of throttle back and know that they are so overwhelmed right now, they might not be able to receive anything else?
Yeah. So for y'all, does that look like a little bit of like programmatic changes as far as, hey, we're not going to do as many extra things, or is it more just communication and we don't want to over communicate and overwhelm in Maycember?
It's both.
Yeah.
So one big thing that we did that's really different than other churches is that we recognize and honor our graduating seniors in August.
Hmm.
Part one of that reason is so that they are on our radar the entire year. So that if you are at our church and you go, oh, I remember that kid, he was on stage. I want to check with him, see how his year's going. But
Right.
also just knowing that in May, those graduates have 1,000 things going on. And
Yep.
so it's hard to even add on another thing at the end of the year. So that's just one practical example.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Now, within that, so I totally agree. I have 4 kids, and it is like just looking at my calendar already. It's so full, and so chaotic. What would you say you've seen work well for y'all in the communication side? Because we don't want to totally drop off all communications, but what does that rhythm look like for y'all? Is it reducing the amount of outward communications that are going out, or is it just being really specific in what you have in those communications? What have you seen work well for you and getting good engagement while people are so busy?
I mean, it's both. It's both. And so if you throttle back on initiatives or new things happening, your communication will be throttled back too.
Yeah, I
But
guess
if
that
you're
makes total
making it
sense.
concise, making it, if let's say you send two a month, if there's no reason to send two, just send one or
Hmm.
just time it strategically. So there's things like that. I think another thing is like if you have something coming up in June, let's say you're doing a VBS or a sports camp, if you're really trying to trying to get volunteer mass for that project in May, you may not have great response.
Yeah.
So maybe you do that earlier. Maybe you start hitting that early on, or, I don't know. I know sometimes there's things that absolutely have to be communicated in May, but I
Yeah.
just like think if a person's cup is completely full and I'm adding another drop of water to it, it's just going to overflow off the top.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
it's really about trying to think when is the best time to hit them with this. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that comes to my mind is how much more important that connection time is while they're at church and in your building, as far as the communication side, whether that's making sure all of your TVs have the right announcements on them, which our package does that automatically for you. So you don't even have to worry about that. Or whether it's, hey, is our website updated? Do we have the right announcements from up front that people are saying? And I think all of those things, and we're going to talk about this soon, I know, about everything coming back to the signups and events page, that people know, even if I am overwhelmed, if I just got a snippet on Sunday of what's coming up, I know right away where I can connect with that. And I think our website platform really helps churches streamline all that in a way that a church member, even when it's crazy and overwhelming, they know they can go to their app, they can go to their website, they can go to their e-newsletter. All those things are going to have all of the information right where they need it. And I think that really, if you've done a good job of communicating that throughout the year, if somebody has it on their mind, oh, I need to not forget to sign my kid up for youth camp or something like that, they're going to know just by nature where to go to sign up. It isn't that your extra email that week of reminding parents to sign up for youth camp is going to tip them over the edge. But it might be like, oh, as you announce that on Sunday, they can go right into their mobile app or the digital bulletin that we have and get signed up right away. So I just think the more you can do the better prep work and getting people to know where they can find everything, that even when it's crazy, they'll be able to easily find those things.
That's so true. And I think another point is kind of what you said. So youth camp would be pretty specific to parents of youth. So like
Hmm.
thinking as a communicator, the broader funnels of the things that apply to everybody, and then there's things that apply to part of your congregation and things apply to a very small portion of just remembering not to throw everything at everybody, especially in May.
Yeah, no, I
That
think that's
would be.
great. And one thing too, I think, is we're transitioning a little bit from like May into the summer. Have you seen anything that you would say like, man, this has really helped us engage even throughout the summer? Because we talk about like right now we're very busy in May. There's a lot going on. What do you see? I would say sometimes some churches see maybe a slowdown in what they have going on programmatically, but for some, their youth programs are exploding and doing tons of things throughout the summer. What have been like a couple initiatives that you've felt have really helped people feel connected and grow in their faith throughout the summer, even if they are traveling or doing sports camps or all these things? It is busy, I think, for families, but what does that look like maybe on y'all's side that y'all have seen these changes or these programs have really helped us connect with people throughout the summer?
Yeah, I think we tend to throttle back in the summer is kind of our rhythm. And so, and then knowing people are going to be out of town or just in a different rhythm, we do kind of push the online access of, streaming the service. We have Sunday at Home for Children, which is kind of mirrors the programming that happens in the building
Hmm.
for them. And so we kind of remind people that that exists.
Yep.
Sunday resources to connect them to scripture reading plans, memory verse, that type of thing, just kind of pushing that access.
Yeah, that's awesome. We just did a podcast interview, if you haven't listened to it yet, with Stacy with Summit Church, where they've basically doubled their online engagement over the last couple of years. And I think one of those things that I took away from that is making sure that people know that they can access your services online is huge. And just a subtle reminder as you head into the summer, that if you have live streaming available, make sure people know that, like whether that's through your email communications or through announcements up front. But people can't connect if they don't know. And so I think that's a huge maybe reminder as we head into May, is sort of prepping people before they're out for 3 weekends in a row on family vacations or family reunions and all that type of stuff, that they know that they can still connect and get access. And I think for me, one of the things, so I've got 4 kids, 3, 5, 7, 9, all boys, and summertime for us has been a unique way that while rhythms sort of shift in small groups or things like that, that we found it to be really fun to just hang out at a park with families from our church and just invite a bunch of families, like, hey, just bring some food, like, and we'll all just have a big picnic and our kids just run around and play. As far as just connecting in like a real, like deep, meaningful way with people in scripture or in just connecting with one another, we found that to be really helpful at various churches that we've been at as we've moved around and things like that. That just getting together, like families that are in town, it's very just come as you are, come and go type of thing. And it's been really helpful even too for new families that we meet at church on Sunday to be like, hey, bring your kids, come over to the park with us. Like, we're going to meet every Sunday night at 6 o'clock. Just if you're in town, come hang out. And I think that has been really impactful for us to get to know new families throughout the summer. But also, it isn't this weekly small group that we sort of have during the school year, but it is also this really informal way that maybe as a pastor, you could set those things up and make it an invite, or you just sort of tag a few families in your church and just say, hey, would you mind just inviting some people and just come hang out, and make it really organic as well. But I think that's been one rhythm that we've loved, and just growing with families throughout the summer. So in the midst of all that chaos, it's really fun just to play and hang out at a park and eat some food. So
Yeah, and that just feels so different for some reason than your regular small group. Just like the mentality of like I've got to prepare and host, and like just doing that feels so different.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, you don't have to prepare. You just come and show up, grab some food on your way, and it's super easy. So, well, Mindy, I think this is a really good encouragement for all church leaders out there as we head into sort of a different season, as we head into Maycember and really summer. There are different seasons that every church is going to just have to think through and prioritize and strategize around how do we really help people grow in their faith and connect.
Okay, so one practical tip for churches, because this idea of like seasons or rhythms may be new to you. And one great idea is just to sit down. I sat down with kind of the girl that runs all operations, and we made a whole yearly calendar. And it has everything that we typically do in January, everything we typically do in February. For one thing, we pull that out every year and we go, okay, this is what we need to be doing. And let me back up and say we have that. And then we also have a calendar that says in January, we should be working on this because it's coming. So does that make sense? One
Yeah.
calendar has what is, and one calendar that tells you what you need to be working on. And so if you do that, it takes a little minute to do that. But if you will go through and just figure that out for your church, then you can kind of notice the rhythms and seasons that you have with
Hmm.
your church, and you can name them and understand them, because it may not make sense to you because like we talked about, it's Easter and now we're already running towards summer and there's not even a breath. So to be able to name this season's a lot, and it's about we're about to have a rest. August
Yep.
and September are a lot. Then we kind of have a rest in October, but right before Christmas. But anyway, it just kind of helps you name your rhythms and understand the rhythms of your own church. And then that can lock in as a communicator your ebb and flow with that too. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, and I think that helps too, so that if you're ever not, if this position is never is occupied by someone other than you, you've left behind a roadmap for somebody.
Hmm.
And I think for us, like, I mean, it's not just my age, but because this girl is younger than me, we'll look at each other and be like, "What did we do last year?" And
Yeah.
remember, because it's like just for some reason, and so having it written down,
Yep.
that you can pull it up and look at it is so helpful.
Absolutely. No, I love that idea. And I think one other thing I've found helpful is as I do that each year, I like to go in and create like folders in my like Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. And so you just can even see like what graphics did we use for announcements last year? Or like what templates did we use for this or that? And sometimes it's been super nice for me as I'm doing Christmas for the sixth time and it's like, wait, I need to sort of get out of my box of what I've designed the last 3 years sort of look the same, or like, but for you to be able to in one place have everything really organized of how did we communicate this, it can really streamline that. And I think even for clients of ours that use our system, one of the unique pieces that we have is that every announcement you can set as a draft, so that next year whenever we do Easter again, or maybe you have an Easter cantata or an Easter choir night, or whatever your announcement is, you can just put it in the draft so that next year when you come back to it, you can just tweak and edit and adjust. And you're not having to totally redesign everything every single year. And I just found that to be so helpful. And as we do demo with new potential clients, that feature alone, people are like, oh my goodness, that saved me so much time to not have to rethink how I announce this Easter Good Friday service every year. But if you could just already have those rhythms of those things that you are announcing every year, just sort of preset. Now you're going to come in, of course, adjust it some and update it. But man, that can save you so much time to not have to worry about that every year.
No, that is so true. That feature saves me so much time and so much heartache. So I'm so thankful for it.
Absolutely. I really appreciate your time and helping us think through that and really honoring, like you said, honoring the family and not overwhelming people, but finding those strategic ways to connect with people. So if you want to learn more about this or ask some specific questions, we'd love for you to reach out to us. You can always email us at info@10apps.com with any questions that you have. But we just want to say thanks for tuning in today to the Smarter Church Communications Podcast. I'm Zach Esker, and it's been a pleasure getting to share strategies with you that will hopefully help you enhance your church's communications. If you found today's episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other church leaders. Let's continue working together to make your church communications smarter and more impactful. Until next time, keep reaching your community with clarity and purpose. See you later.